the supervision body must be fluid because it must to um, respond to the startup on the pre-seed, seed, and growth stage before pivoting into a mobility platform that will answer to the Ministry of Transports, for example. But before that, it must have a supervision body that can look into the startup during this phase, the inception phase. So is that the law will create an incentive for people to create here and for people to come from other countries, like it's happening in Kenya, for people to come from other countries to create here, like it's happening in Rwanda as well. So the key word is incentive. The law will create an incentive to allow people to be creative in Angola. I like the way you link financial inclusion and digital inclusion because on this new age, with the advent of the internet, I believe that the best way for us to fix financial inclusion is through digital inclusion. So thank you for linking that. So,
hello, guys. Welcome once more to Africa Tech Talks. Our guest today is Morato Custódio. Is the founder of LWEI, a fintech company focused on financial inclusion for people outside the conventional financial system. In 2017, he established a mobile phone assembly factory for low-cost smartphones based on macroeconomic strategy, seeking to boost the technology industry in Angola and generate thousands of jobs in the sector. In 2019, he launched Freenet, a project to advance the digital and financial inclusion by providing free internet access with purchase of affordable smartphones. And Morato is passionate and is all about community and access to platforms. Also, is a supporter of financial independence. Is also a friend of the cast. He has been invited since the beginning. Thank you very much for coming, Morato. It's our pleasure to have you here.
Morato, thank you guys for having me.
No, it's our pleasure. Without further delays, and knowing that you have been involved in the process of making the new Startup Act in Angola, one of the questions that we have to begin with, and I think that it's the start of this. We all think that what is for the new act, and what did you guys consider as being a startup?
Okay, that's a very good question. But let me start with the motivation. Why do we need a startup law in Angola? Because we already have many other laws for micro and small enterprises. We have good fiscal laws for well-established companies. But if you have all that, why do you need a new law for startups? So let me start with that, if you allow me.
Sure.
So when we were approached by the government to support the making of the new law, based on our pain as a member of the ecosystem that we are trying to build, was to contribute on the new law to fix four major issues. So one is the legal ambiguity. Mm-hmm. On the legal ambiguity, we want to first define what is a startup, legally speaking, and second, mm-hmm. what is the supervision body. So going back to your question, what we are defining as a startup is an entity based on technology and innovation with high scalability opportunity, established less than 10 years, and must contain the seal made in Angola. So basically, we all know, if we go to Google, we all know what is a startup. But legally speaking, every country must define what is a startup, so we know how the law will
We'll give you
protect,
the boundaries. Yeah.
set the boundaries to protect and promote the startup. The second item is the supervision body. Why
Hmm.
is it important to have a supervision body? Because when you have a startup, either fintech, mobility, agri-tech, or health tech, before you validate your business model, you have a lot of opportunity to pivot, to do something else. I can give you an example as Kubinga. Kubinga started as a mobility platform that migrating to e-commerce platform as well. So before going into mobility or e-commerce, the supervision body must be fluid because it must to um, respond to the startup on the pre-seed, seed, and growth stage
Hmm.
before pivoting into a mobility platform that will answer to the Ministry of Transport, for example. But before that, it must have a supervision body that can look into the startup during this phase, the inception phase. So first pillar is the legal ambiguity, definition and supervision. Second is access to market, because we believe that instead of handouts and money for free for startups, most of the startups in Angola need access to market.
Hmm.
What is the biggest market in Angola? The biggest market in Angola is the public sector. If you go to the
Hmm.
public sector, if you look into the um, public sector buying, uh, so all the, how can I put it? All the
Tenders?
prerequisites, the requisite
Oh,
of the
The
tenders,
requisites
the
of the tender.
requisites of the tenders, by definition, they exclude startups. So
Yes.
what we are trying to achieve is to create a green road, fast track road for startups to have access to provide services, goods and services to the state. So the third pillar is the tax breaks. If you look at the tax code for Angola, even the smallest of the startups, it pays the same taxes as a company as big as Unitel.
Yes.
So what we are trying to achieve is to create tax incentives, tax breaks incentives for startups so they can have the opportunity to grow and become a well-established company. So is the tax fiscal. The fourth pillar is access to funding. So we
Hmm.
are what we are trying to achieve in Angola is to create a fund, a startup fund. The money can come from everywhere: sovereign fund, um, FADA, FGC, all those bodies that exist, all
Hmm.
those incentives and funding that exist for agriculture, for medical sector, for transport sector. We want to create, we want to have access to funds for startups because they can become an agriculture booster. They can become
Hmm.
a
Hmm.
transportation company. They can become a huge medical company. So we are trying to fix that. So just to recap, four pillars we're trying to solve: legal ambiguity, access to markets, funds, and tax breaks. So we can create, so we can start dreaming of an ecosystem that can attract foreign investment. So
Yeah.
basically, going back to your question, is a small is an entity um, based on innovation and technology, less than 10 years funded, and with the Made in Angola seal. The Made in Angola seal is it's important for us because what we are trying to achieve is to go further and further away of what we see now, which is I have an idea, I go to India, I go to United States, I buy technology, I bring to Angola, and I have a startup. So what we are trying to achieve is to have technology made in Angola, is to have code made in Angola, made by Angolans. So we can have the seal, and with the new law that passed last year, December, that the government must buy products made in Angola, it makes sense if we want startups to have a fast track access to public sector tenders to have the seal made in Angola. So that's why we put it in on the prerequisite as well.
We have that discussion in other forums as well. But so the four pillars, quite interesting. The four pillars. I think that I can highlight one, which is the supervision from a ministry or another ministry. This is, I think, one of the most important, because getting a license, and I have that because we all have companies, and we all started a company in Angola, and having the opportunity of having someone who facilitates the access to a license to operate
Exactly.
is quite it's very important for someone to operate also. It's interesting that fast track
You
in
see,
the tenders.
yeah, you see on that point on the supervision body, why is that so important? Because let's say you want to create a mobility startup. So it means you need license from the commerce, you need a license from Guichet Unique, you need a license from the Ministry of Transportation, you need a license from the municipality. You need a lot of licenses just for you to be able to operate. So what we are trying to achieve is if you are a startup, it doesn't matter if you are on the mobility or
Let me
fintech.
can I interrupt just for a
Sure.
second? Let me just ask you. Imagine that I have a fintech.
Yeah.
Imagine that I have an insurtech or any other company linked with this kind of sector. Is it
Yeah.
also linked with this entity that regulates all startups?
Yeah, let's say you are on the fintech space. So legally, right now, you need a license from the central bank. Depending on the type of transaction that you run, maybe you need a license from CMC.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
If you want to transact on
CMC
Bodiva, you
is
need.
but CMC and Bodiva are the entities that regulate the sector. Okay, it's important because no one understands from the outside. Well, for
Okay,
our public is not going to understand what is CMC and Bodiva. So
yeah,
CMC is the market commission, and Bodiva is the stock exchange in Angola.
yeah. So if you look at the law, for you to become, even if your idea is very small, but if you want to launch into the market your MVP so you can test your business model, you need all those licenses, and those licenses come with a very very high price tag. So
Mm-hmm.
what we are trying to achieve is, if you are a startup, if you're starting, you have your supervision body, and your supervision body will give you the startup seal, which will be
Your license.
all license, so you can operate on that space under the supervision of that body, which is independent. And then when you validate your business model, when you are on the growth stage, when you go for when you go to the market with your final product, then your supervision body will link you with the central bank of Angola so you can acquire a license. But when you go to that phase, you have already validated your business model, because right now what we see in Angola, you have almost 30 banking license, and
Mhm.
we are now seeing the same on the PSP license, on the service, on the payment service provider license. We
Yes,
already have a lot of license issued,
22, I think.
but
Yeah.
you have already a lot of license issued, and most of those companies will die after 12 months period, because
True.
they didn't even validate the business model. They didn't even validate if it makes sense to have that kind of company operating in Angola, but they already went through the hassle of getting the license, paying
Mhm.
for the license, hiring people, having an office, having all the demands from the central bank in terms of reporting, that it's also a constraint for their growth. So that's why we think it's very important to have a supervision body that looks into the startup where they are on that phase: pre-seed, seed, and growth.
Okay. Very interesting indeed. When you were making that law and uh, writing the principles, did you guys connected with the companies or and startups in Angola that could give you that input? And at some point, did you also check what was happening in other countries, like similar markets like Nigeria or other similar countries, or also even probably the most similar market to the African market, the Indian market. Did you guys check this
So,
market?
so first of all, we for the last 10 years, we have been operating and engaging with the government as startups or as individuals. So last year, we
Mhm.
created the Angolan Association of Startups and Digital Entrepreneurs. We created that association to have an entity to deal with the government. And that
Mhm.
association have all the major startups in Angola. I'm saying Tupuka, Kubinga, Televa, Api Saud, Socia, all the big startups are part of the association.
Mhm.
So when we were invited by the government to feed into the law, I didn't go as Morato. No, I went as the Secretary General of the association, representing the startups, representing what are the startups' needs, and we just were like a vessel of the message that came from that
From the
ecosystem that
startups.
we are trying to build into the government. So the references that we are looking into, and I'm saying looking into right now because it's not closed yet, it's still undergo. We're looking into Nigeria, Tunisia, as references. And this is a good thing about being late. Being late is not always a bad thing. The good thing
Mhm.
about being late is that you can look into other markets and avoid the mistakes
Certain
and
mistakes.
replicate what is good, what they're doing good. And not only the association is working with the government, but also I know that UNDP is involved. IFC is involved with comments as well. So it will be, in my experience, one of the most inclusive laws that I ever seen because of the amount of entities and people and government institutions involved on the making of the law.
Yeah, the body work was quite vast, so that you
Yeah.
could have inputs from a lot of entities. I'm going to satisfy this curiosity for Ivo, um,
What
because
curiosity, man?
we're always discussing this because um, having a startup in Angola, it's normal that we have a startup, and you were just saying that. Uh, we have already 20 something licenses, a lot of licenses for payment systems. And at the same time, probably we don't have as many startups trying to solve real issues from real companies. And this is something that there is not an incentive, or at least we don't see an incentive in the market to solve real issues of companies. I think recently we've seen it with Emish. We were talking about this yesterday, Ivo, right? About what they created as a mechanism to solve their problem. So they presented the problem, and they were expecting the companies to create and to solve the problems for them. And this is probably a way also to start companies instead of just trying to find a business model. And Morato, we have ourselves our own challenges in that area. We need to probably also educate the entrepreneurs and the founders to look at the market, trying to find solutions for something that is not there yet and that needs a solution, rather than just coming with a product from abroad and inserting it in the market.
Yeah, I can give you a real example. I'm part of a startup called WeConnect. So what we do essentially is providing free internet access, working with big companies. So we are working with a good example is Unitel. Unitel, based on their social responsibility program, they provided free internet to health ministry across the
Hmm.
18 provinces of Angola. So in every province, in every major hospital, Unitel provided free internet access. But Unitel is a huge company, and um, it, it takes a lot of resources from their company to go into each hospital and install Wi-Fi. So they hired our startup, WeConnect. So we installed the Wi-Fi, and beyond providing free internet access to the hospital, they are also providing free internet access to the visitors of the hospitals. And in between, they can run marketing campaigns, they can run questionnaires, they can get more information about their customers or potential customer going into that hospital. And this is a good example where a huge company like Unitel, they could just spend a few $1 million and developing their own solution, but they look into the market. They hired WeConnect, which is a startup, a small startup, and we are in partnership with Unitel. And let me tell you, for Unitel, this is peanuts. This is pocket change. This is very, very small
Of
money.
course.
But for us as a startup, it gave us major funding for us to go into Uganda, for us to go invest in Santo Tome Prince. And that's a good example where startups can look into the big companies and solve problems for them, which is quicker to implement, cheaper to implement, and at the end of the day, they get a service, they get a good service instead of adding one more department inside to develop. And I'm talking about Unitel, but could also talk about Banco Buy, could also talk about Total Energies at the gas station. We are present in a few gas stations of Total, providing free internet access as well. So this is a good example where startups can solve problems for big companies and not only support them, but also making money to further some investments.
Let me just ask you about how do you see this startup law or the startup act helping this ecosystem to grow, and because it has, from my experience in the Angolan market, it's easier to build inside and a solution that I can control than rather give it away to another company, because I know that inside of my company, my degree of certainty that it's not going to fail, it's bigger.
Yeah,
This has been something that I've learned in the past 15 years in the market. Is there any incentive placed so that this can be furthered and can be transformed into something that is inside the law?
Andre, that's the key word, incentive. So right now, there are no incentives for you to create something in Angola.
True.
Right now, there is no incentive for you to invest in research and development. There is no incentive for you to be creative. So it make more sense for you to go outside and just buy a white label app, put your logo, and launch into the market and go through the hustle as you creating a regular company. So what we are creating with the law is to create an incentive. So that's why the seal made in Angola is very important, because we are creating an incentive for people to be creative. We are allowing people to be creative, and they will be rewarded for that. Because on the access to funds, we are proposing a very aggressive package of, we talking a subsidy for founders, so they don't have to maintain a job while they are trying to create a startup. We are talking about a subsidy for founders. We are talking about tax breaks. We are talking about access to fund for pre-seed and seed before going to interact with investors. We are talking about access to markets, and most important, access to public tenders. So what the law will make it to say, listen, if you create here, if you are creative, we are rewarding you for being creative. And that's the key word, is that the law will create an incentive for people to create here and for people to come from other countries, like it's happening in Kenya, for people to come from other countries to create here, like it's happening in Rwanda as well. So the key word is incentive. The law will create an incentive to allow people to be creative in Angola.
So Angola wants to be a playground for startups as well.
Exactly.
It wants to create the right environment for that, with the right incentives, to work with the government, to work with so the public sector, which is probably uh, um, a place where it needs a lot of innovation
and,
and
and the private sector as well, because the law is has a provision to give tax credits for big corporations that hire
okay.
startups to solve their problems. So what we're talking here is to create an environment like honey, so everybody can be pulled, even and we are betting very strong on the reverse migration, because
Mhm.
I went to the startup summit in Brazil, and I met 3 Angolans that went there for their
Brazil.
higher education, and they stayed there. They're working regular jobs, but they created something. 3 of them are founders of very good startups that are operating in Santa Catarina, which
Mhm.
is a state in Brazil.
In the south, yeah.
So what we are trying to do is to create an incentive for those guys to say, okay, now we have a safe haven back in Angola. Let me go back with my startup. Let me contribute. And this is what we are trying to create, an environment for local startups to flourish, but also to attract brains that are spread into the diaspora.
I'm probably taking too much time, but I need to ask you another question, and it's a quick question, and it's a remark from our first episode with Chris Skinner. We were talking about the places where startups would flourish in Africa, and he was saying that naturally it would occur in Cape Town in South Africa, but this didn't happen this way. So Nigeria managed to pull most of the unicorns that exist in Africa and most of the ecosystem for startups, for especially digital startups in Africa, went to Nigeria. Um, what do you think that Angola can bring to the table so that we can attract talent and attract the right talent and the right capital to Angola so that we can have such an ecosystem?
So the biggest advantage that I believe Angola have compared to all those other countries is that entrepreneurs, digital entrepreneurs, startuppers, for the last 12 to 15 years, they learn how to build and operate a startup without a startup law, without funding, without incentives, without access to markets. They had to learn how to survive.
Mm-hmm.
This will be a competitive advantage when we create an environment that will reward those entrepreneurs with an environment. Sorry for being redundant, but
Yeah, don't worry.
when they are placed in an environment that is set up for them to thrive,
Mm-hmm.
this I believe is a big advantage, because I hear some people say, "Oh, Angolans are lazy. Angolans don't like to work. Angolans," that couldn't be further from the truth, because we have people here sacrificing their careers, sacrificing their well-being, sacrificing a very good and comfortable life to be an entrepreneur in a very, very um, aggressive environment. So when you reverse that environment into an environment that is set up for them to flourish, I believe that this acceleration will be times 10, because they already know how to do it in the difficult times. In the easier times, it will be easier for them to grow.
To flourish and
So
to
I
grow.
believe, and I believe that Angola will. will play a major role in the region for the next 10 years if we pass that law.
Mm-hmm.
Let's hope that starts already this year, right? So hopefully we'll get the new startup. Yes, let's cross fingers. The new startup law, startup act comes into force, and all the major challenges that currently that startups
Ivo,
face are addressed.
Ivo, just one last remark on that. In Africa, most of the countries are heavily politicized, and we cannot undersee the power of a law that is well designed, well implemented, and well used can have an effect on the country's well-being in the future. Because if it comes from the government, a law that is enforced, people will oblige, people will follow the law, because this is how it happens in Africa. So that's why I'm putting a lot of faith that this law will change the face of the ecosystem for the next 10 years. And sorry to interrupt.
No, I think you're absolutely right and correct. I mean, like you mentioned before, the public sector is one of the major, how do you say, gears of the Angolan economy. So we shouldn't really ignore that. Putting incentives into these laws that benefit startups, and ultimately they will benefit all the governmental bodies and the citizen at the end of the day. I think that's one of the ways to go, really. We shouldn't ignore that. I mean, when you talk about startups, and typically when we hear the stories of startups abroad, they always talk they must be disruptors. They must compete, head to head with the incumbents, the banks or the telcos. And I think maybe this is a very we're starting to see now in some other countries that despite the initial good stories that we hear about neobanks or something like that, we come to a conclusion that is very hard, right, to try to displace a traditional financial institution or try to displace a traditional telco company. So when I look at these companies, I look at them as big whales in the ocean. You don't want to take the whale out of the ocean, but the whale itself is a very key important component on that ecosystem. It's like so the whale, they feed from the bottom of the ocean, they bring the nutrients from the bottom of the ocean, they come to the surface of the water, they poo on the surface. That poo is used as a food source for the plankton and so on. And I think startups should be the other living organisms that can take advantage of these big
whales.
Right? Like are the banks going head to head directly with a traditional financial institution on their area of comfort, the same products or services. I think it's very, very, very hard to pull that off.
Agree.
Like Andre was saying, there's fortunately, I think we're starting to see some new initiatives that are trying to say, listen, we have this problem. For instance, this EMIS, which is it's a financial institution. It's not a banking institution, but it's the institution that makes possible all the ATM transactions and so on. And they say, listen, we have a problem that we want to solve, which is digital identity. Know your customer processes. So startups want to tackle this problem. Please apply. We wanna see what kind of solutions you can build for us. So this is a very problem real problem-oriented, approach to things.
I agree.
And I think they are taking the
And Ivo,
in
let me
together in
just
partnership with accelerators and incubators. They are doing a good job, I think.
Ivo,
Yeah, Andre?
let me just pull a question also, because what you just said is probably going to accelerate the funding accessibility, or if I have the money outside of Angola and I see that there is a startup with a good idea to solve a certain problem in a certain context, for a financial institution, for telco, for any of those whales that you were describing, probably they can access the funding of that startup through all those funds that Morato was talking about, and probably can make it easy for those institutions from abroad to access the market and to invest in Angola. Is that correct, Morato?
Yeah, this is one of the provisions on the law as well. We are creating incentives for people to bring money from outside to invest in Angola, because right now we know that one of the biggest issues is that people bring money, they invest in Angola, and then they can't take the money out. The second issue is, if I receive an investment in US in foreign currency, when it comes to Angola, I don't have the ability as a company locally. I don't have the ability to have a treasury account where I can store my foreign exchange currency that comes from abroad.
Yes.
So on the law, we proposed a provision that protects foreign investors and foreign investment into startups in Angola. So they can protect the foreign currency when it comes to Angola, and they decide how they want to exchange and to invest. And second, there is a provision as well to fast track the expatriation of capital when it's needed. So you're absolutely right. That kind of environment creates an appetite for foreign investors, but the law must have a provision to protect them as well. And we put it there.
So it's like a special vehicle. Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, Angola faces some unique, not so unique challenges, but there's these kind of challenges are shared with other countries, especially in the forex area, right? So getting access to foreign currency like US dollars or euros, and I mean that all the companies, all the citizens currently living in Angola face those challenges. So
tell me about it. Tell me about
it. So it's hard to get money out of the country, and I mean, as a potential investors, I can imagine if it is hard to get money out of the country, it will be hard to put money into the country, because I don't have the guarantee that I can take out my profits. So these enterprises, they exist to make money, right? It's not a sin to make money. Okay, it's actually good. Okay, so it gets everyone benefits from it. So it brings prosperity, it brings economic growth. So we shouldn't be afraid to let others prosper, so to speak.
But Ivo,
it's not controlled by one person. It doesn't happen like that, right? So
exactly. We are talking about a general issue that affects everybody. So if you invest in a startup, your life will not be easier. Let's say. What on that point, what we are creating here is an environment where you, as a foreign investor, can invest your money into an Angolan startup, because we created an incentive for you to do that, but also looking into a Pan-African solution. Let's take WeConnect, for example. Right now, WeConnect is already selling services abroad. So WeConnect is already making money in foreign currency. So our business model is proven to work outside of Angolan boundaries. So with the right incentives, it's easier for someone to bring money from abroad to invest in WeConnect. So WeConnect, having access to all those incentives created by the law, WeConnect can grow, and instead of 2 countries, can go take another 3 or another 4 countries in Africa. And your money that you invested in a startup in Angola, so your value for money, it's big because our local currency is heavily devaluated. So your value for money is big. Taking those services outside, you can make money out of foreign currency as well. So what we are trying to achieve here is to create an environment for people to come from abroad, bring them money, develop here, and then become Pan-African solutions. That's basically the end game. But don't tell anyone.
There's this idea. There's this idea that Angola is still a very expensive market. We were at some point the most expensive city in Luanda was the most expensive city for expats in the world, surpassing Japan and Tokyo. Yeah. So yeah, I think that there's still this idea, but nowadays it's quite the opposite, and it's much more easy to access to
some things definitely, Andre, are cheaper. Some other things you still kind of pay a premium to have access to those things in Angola.
And you compete. You compete with other markets. We talked with Kenneth the other day regarding that.
Yeah, but it's definitely it's interesting. I see that 2024 might be a turning year for for startups in Angola, hopefully, and surely that new legislation that addresses the current challenges or the perceived challenges for startups will help immensely on the growth and help the entrepreneurs and help the investors and help everybody, right? The consumer, the citizen, and so on. Morato, let me just... So we talked about the startups and specifically legislation, the Startup Act. Many other countries are working also in Startup Acts. I mean, African countries, namely. Most of the countries already have laws for small and medium-sized businesses, right? But specifically for startups, this is a particularly new topic. And I think Angola is also spearheading this new Startup Act in the region. But let's talk about a very dear topic of ours, which is financial inclusion, which is digital inclusion. After all these years, after all the efforts and initiatives that have been made, what is your take on the current situation on those two topics? So digital inclusion, how easy it is for a regular citizen in Angola to get digitally included? I mean, Angola, in many private companies, they invested, I mean, hundreds of millions of dollars for the last few years, right, in infrastructure. So connecting all the major capitals of the provinces or municipalities with fiber optics, for instance. We have the usage of mobile phones and even smartphones have been, rising all these years. So how easy is to access a new device today compared to 10 years ago? And on the digital, on the financial inclusion side, we still face some challenges, right? So what are those challenges? And if you take a retrospective of 10 years ago, what has changed for the better? What has stayed the same? What has gotten worse? Do we have new challenges that we didn't have 10 years ago? What is your vision on this?
I like the way you link financial inclusion and digital inclusion because on this new age, with the advent of the internet, I believe that the best way for us to fix financial inclusion is through digital inclusion. So thank you for linking that. So let me start by giving some insights. So in Angola, you have 25 million SIM cards in the market. 25 million SIM cards. You have only 3.7 million people using social media on a smartphone. 62% of all the traffic, all the web traffic in Angola is done by a mobile device. In the next 10 years, if you add up people up to 12 years old and people up to 17 years old, you have 33% of the total population of Angola coming into teenage years. So let's put those numbers together. So in the next 10 years, you will have 9 million people that will need a mobile phone. If you look at the trend that 62% is already on a mobile device, it means most of those people being on the younger generation, this was a mosquito. I was trying to kill a mosquito before it kills me. So, so if you take those people, they will not use a regular feature phone. They will need a smartphone. So now let's go back to the challenges. We need to break the accessibility barrier, which are two main accessibility barriers that we have. One is the cost of the internet, which is significantly lower now. This is one of the things that changed for the last 10 years. Angola used to have...
Excuse me, Morato, you are talking about in dollar terms, right?
Exactly.
So, okay.
Exactly. I'm talking about the global reference. So 10 years ago, in US dollars, it was extremely expensive for people to have access to internet. Today, in US dollars speaking, it's very, very cheap. So this is one of the things that it became better. And it's one of the accessibility barriers that we have. The second accessibility barrier that we have is that people forgot that mobile money is composed by money and a mobile. We fixed the money part, which is let's create solution for people to transact. Let's make it easier for people to access their money. Let's make mobile application for banks. Let's make new fintech. Let's make it easier for people to transact. So we sort of tackle the money side, but we didn't solve the mobile side, because this is one of the accessibility barriers that still remains up to today, which is the cost of your first smartphone. And if you look at Kenya, what they did, if you look at Zambia, what they're planning to do in 2024, if you look at Rwanda, what they did 5 years ago, they said, okay, fine. If we want to solve the financial inclusion issue, we need to solve the digital inclusion. So let's build mobile phone factories, let's create incentive for people to open mobile phone factories in the country. Let's talk to the operators and let's say, if you are a state-owned operator, 60% of your mobile devices needs to be bought in country, needs to be bought in the factory that we're building. And the factory, they need to satisfy the quality demands of the mobile operator. And with the incentives that they created, with tax breaks, the smartphone became very, very cheap on those countries. The access to a smartphone, we're talking about $35 to $40 smartphones. So they broke the accessibility barrier on the smartphone. In Angola, we have as Andre mentioned, looking at the financial inclusion issue that I was trying to solve with another group of people with a startup called LWEI, I identified in 2016 that I can't launch an app without somebody solving the mobile uh, accessibility issue. So I joined forces with another group of people and we built a mobile phone factory because I was looking into how to solve the financial inclusion issue. So what what could have what the government could have done is to just replicate what has been done in Rwanda, what has been done in Kenya, and what is now done in Zambia. They will start now in 2024, which is how do we make a mobile phone, a smartphone, accessible for the majority of the population? First, they created incentives, and second, just a wild thought, why don't we create a trust environment where people can have access to a mobile phone and not have to pay in full? This is something that doesn't exist in Angola. There is a trial from Unitel with Mike, but it's not as broad as we would wish it was. So we need a broader scale initiative to make the mobile so accessible as the money that everybody's working to create. So you cannot solve at this present age, at this present time and age, you cannot solve financial inclusion issue in Africa if you don't tackle the mobile accessibility issue that we currently have because the families don't have enough money to buy a smartphone. And I don't like that idea that it's okay for Africans to just be okay. With a feature phone, you can have access to USSD. Please, USSD is legacy. What happened with M-Pesa in 2007 will never happen again in any other country. And as much money as people want to invest, as much money operators are investing in mobile money through USSD, it will never work because it's a legacy platform. It's competing with mobile apps. It's competing with the usability of Facebook, Instagram, that people don't have to go to school to learn how it works. So I don't believe in USSD. I don't believe in feature phones anymore. I believe that every Angolan from the age of 15 should have access to a smartphone as a right. And this is something that I've been working so hard to achieve, not as a right, but at least to become very, very cheap for people to have a smartphone on their hand. Sorry, this is a very, very close to my heart subject, and I get very passionate.
No, it's okay. I mean, you've been very vocal about that. I've witnessed some of your positions on this matter, namely on USSD, and what do you believe is the future for
Is the present and the future? Yes.
The present and the future, right? So you're putting efforts, and you strongly believe that, despite the fact that feature phones still exist, still dominate the market, but the way to go forward and the way to massively have an adoption for financial services or financial inclusion is
through a smartphone.
is tightly bonded with
smartphones,
with a smartphone. And
yes.
For that, you think that you need to make it more affordable than it is today.
Yes. And just repeating myself, we are in a very politicized country. So if we want to make smartphone affordable, we just need to follow other heavily politicized countries like Rwanda. Let's just make it into law. You build in Angola, you buy in Angola, I give you tax credits, and it will reflect on the price to the final consumer. That easy.
Yeah, makes makes sense. So give incentives for people, investors, companies that want to. So you want to address the market here? Come and set shop here, not
Yeah,
just import uh, finished products or devices.
yeah,
I actually will give you, I don't know, tax incentives if you
yeah,
set up a factory for assembling phones here,
yeah,
or giving jobs to people also in the process. And hopefully
exactly.
that will make the device even more affordable than it is today, and that
Yeah,
will lead to more financial inclusion in the medium long term, I think, or even
yeah,
in the short
that's
term. I mean,
yeah. It's my strong belief, Ivo. It's my strong belief that the financial inclusion ratio that we so much want for Angola is heavily connected to um, accessibility to a smartphone. That's my strong belief.
good, good.
Let me just address another issue, which Kenneth also was
Our
talking the other
previous
day.
guest.
Our previous guest, and he was saying that one of the difficulties of the Angolan market is even the access. And I'm not talking to about internet. I'm just talking about electricity. And when I'm talking about electricity, it doesn't mean what people may think that is electricity. It means also electricity with a stable current that can allow the phones, the smartphones, especially that are more sensitive to keep working. Because one of the things that I see is that some people that have the smartphones, they can't keep the smartphones operating with battery because it degrades very fast due to the type of current they have. What do you think could be a solution for this?
Listen, so the need for a product or service is one of the biggest drivers for innovation. So why the feature phone resists with a longer battery life other than a smartphone? So I will give you an insight from someone in this market. So what happened is most of the phones that end up in Africa are one, very old, second, very cheap, and third, very poor in quality terms. So if you have a smartphone with a battery which is 1,500 or 2,000 milliamps, of course it will degrade very very fast because the usage of the smartphone is it's higher than the feature phone. So that's why it's very important to set up shop in Angola, because now the supervision body will be ruthless with the assemblers, with the manufacturer, and say, listen, in Angola, we have this issue. So we will regulate that a smartphone doesn't matter what brand, doesn't matter what size. The minimum milliamp for the battery must be 3,000 to 4,000, period. So those are the small things that we can tap into if we set up shop in Angola, that we have no control if we just give people license to import containers with very, very old smartphones that were not sold in India, were not sold in China, were not sold in other countries, and end up in Africa. We have no control.
And
Evil.
Morata, I just thought of something that it's not the first time that I've been discussing this, which is um, also the smartphones as being a tool, or the phones or the smartphones be a tool
Yeah,
for transacting money, to make payments, to whatever you make have will have a lot of you know applications, apps, wallets, digital wallets, or something like that. It is a fact today. It is a reality that a significant amount of mobile devices that enter the markets here, that that come from other countries,
Yeah.
they come preloaded with malware, viruses that steal money, steal credentials from their users, and you don't even know about it. So that it's also a matter of national security, and
Exactly. Thank you.
financial for the system. Yeah, I
Thank you.
mean, it makes sense in order to have a certified device, that will be
Can I
yeah.
can I just say something, because you read my mind. Yesterday I went to the factory to pay a visit with a bank, with an Angolan bank. We went to the mobile phone
Mhm.
factory and we were talking about why is important that kind of initiative in country. And one of the things that I stressed a lot was the national security. We don't know because we don't have any say on the quality assurance process when those equipment leave their factory. So thank you for mentioning that, because this is actually one of the biggest risks that we face as an African country that just consume imported
Yeah.
goods, is the national security aspect. Thank you.
You're welcome. So this is always on top of my mind, because you already know I'm a more of a cybersecurity
Cybersecurity.
focused guy right now.
Yes.
and
Yes.
of course these kind of things are worrying, and so these
Yes.
devices should go through some kind of quality assurance, and especially devices that that will be used by governmental
Yep.
officials and something like
Yep.
that,
Yep.
should be some countries have specific departments that they outsource to private companies, okay, that before handing a device to a governmental official, that device is completely, screened. They
Yes.
test it and
Yes.
test it to see if it is okay for a large mass of consumers. I
Yes.
think that could be addressed, like if you follow certain types of rules, or the device is made in land, you can assure, you know, like I said before, it's a national security
Is a national
thing.
security issue.
It's
It
it's
is.
not new. When you buy some things, some governments, some countries, on specific areas, they don't source their some types of electronics from other countries, because
Exactly.
they spy on each other, in those
Of
electronic
course.
devices.
Of
I will not
course.
name the countries, okay? I will not name the countries, okay?
Yeah.
Don't make me name the countries.
Yeah.
But it's
But
not.
China, it's a problem.
Never been.
Do not
Never
do
been to
not
China.
name.
Never been to
Don't
China.
name. Don't name.
Yeah, but you know what I mean. So in terms
Yeah.
of that, also addresses that problem of security,
Yeah.
national security, and also the stability of the financial system. Okay,
Exactly.
because if you have um,
A
hundreds
malware.
or
Yeah.
thousands of malware installed on your devices that can steal credentials from your users, that
Yeah.
could turn
A
to a
big issue.
nightmare.
Yeah. It is.
Yeah,
It is.
just
I
like
agree
that.
with you. It is.
Good. So, Victor, I think you have a question for Morato now, no?
Yeah,
Or
right,
two
right, right.
questions.
Let's change a little bit the subject. We know that you are a great enthusiast of cryptocurrencies. Let's talk a bit about that. In a way,
Laser
there's
eyes.
intersection with this financial inclusion. And we will go. How do you see what are your views currently? This new hype again with the Bitcoin ETFs, but there's on one side. On another side, we see more restrictions to the farming process. Some huge country like China forbidding it, Angola also. So how how is your point of view regarding this all these
I
shifts?
will Vitor, I will disappoint you, and I will disappoint all of you because
Oh
um,
man.
yeah, I will
Can,
disappoint you
can,
guys.
do you just allow me to put some laser eyes post production on you so you go full crypto? No.
No, no,
You've
because
been red
no,
pilled.
no, because and I will tell you why. I have my own vision on crypto. I have my own vision on Bitcoin specifically. I have my beliefs, but I have some responsibility in my country. I have some responsibility in Angola, so I need to be very, very careful on how I present my views because, as you know, there is a proposal for a law
Hmm.
that was accepted in the generality by the assembly, by the National Assembly, um, that uh, it will become a law eventually.
Right.
So I will disappoint you in the matter that I don't believe our country is ready to talk about crypto. I don't believe our financial system is ready to include even CBDCs. I don't believe our country is ready to regulate on crypto transactions. So we have a new SPA law, which is the Angolan Payment System Law. It's very new. We talk about the number of um, payment service provider license that were issued. We are seeing Emish making a very good move with Quick to create interoperability between wallets and bank accounts. We see now AfriMoney coming after Unitel Money. So there is a lot of things happening in our financial system. And with the state of our currency, our national currency, our local currency, I don't think we have the space to discuss crypto. I don't believe it. So that's why I move the conversation into crypto mining, which is a completely different subject. Because remember, we spoke about the startup law, we spoke about the financial inclusion and the digital inclusion as well, and with the crypto mining is no different. We are talking about a very, very big wording that we have been hearing in our country since 1979, which is the diversification of our economy. How we can export other goods to balance our commercial, um, to have a balanced.
The trade balance, yeah.
Yeah, how can we have a trade balance to avoid such high dependency on oil?
Mm.
So regarding crypto, my main focus is on advising the government publicly. I've been doing that publicly, advising the government. You can you can regulate crypto if you want. You can regulate mining if you want, but you can't put the two together on the same bill because they are not the same thing. Vitor, if we talk about crypto, is a world by itself, and if we talk about
Yeah.
mining, is a completely different beast. Doesn't have nothing to do with crypto. So I believe that by banning everything like Angola is doing with this law, with this proposal, we are missing an opportunity to have a trade balance in our exportations, because only 52% of all the electricity produced is consumed because of a very poor distribution network that we have in country.
That's right.
75% of all the electricity produced in Angola is green. It's from hydro, so it doesn't pollute. We have um, massive solar investment being done by the United States and some other countries in the south of Angola as well. So it means we will increase the output of green energy in country. So by banning crypto mining in Angola, you are actually preventing the country of having a source of revenue in foreign currency, because every Bitcoin mined will be paid in foreign currency, let's say in US dollar. And if you regulate, if you provide guidelines, if you create licenses for people to do it without interfering with residential areas, without interfering with the power lines that goes into the people's homes, you can actually create, or you can just leverage the commercial zones that Angola already created, the industrial zones that Angola already created, which are located nearby of hydro power stations, and they can consume energy directly from the hydropower station, mining Bitcoin and making money for the country. I don't care if Angolans will own the Bitcoin or foreign will own the Bitcoin. We're not talking Bitcoin. We're not talking crypto. We don't have the financial maturity in our country to talk crypto. Let's talk mining. Let's make money to benefit the country instead of just banning. So I will disappoint you guys because I will not go deep on crypto. I don't care about crypto. I care about mining and how it can benefit the country accessing foreign exchange currency.
Great.
So there's no red eyes anymore.
There's no laser eyes. There's no laser eyes.
There's no laser eyes.
Oh, damn, man. That would make such a good promo, you know, on the YouTube thumbnail. We could put that with, you know.
No,
to the moon.
because I believe that it creates just noise into the very real discussion that we must have on mining. All those crypto scams that were run in the country in the past years, all those people losing their life's work money into investing in crypto, they just create a very, very high loud noise into a real conversation that we need to have, that we must have about mining and how it can benefit Angola in the diversification of our economy.
So,
Yeah,
so what are you saying is that?
Sorry,
Yeah,
Victor?
go
yeah,
ahead, Victor.
is to separate emotions from a real rational discussion about
Exactly.
yeah.
I mean, you could say, you could argue that that also, for instance, the National Bank or some commercial financial institutions could have positions in crypto. Like you could also do that, right? So those type of discussions are being held in Europe, in the United States, saying that okay, you want to have crypto assets, okay, you can have 2 to 3% of your total, actives could be in crypto assets, for instance.
Yeah.
Assets, yeah. We say crypto activos, so that's why I crypto actives. No, crypto assets. Thank you.
Crypto active,
man.
Yeah, those
Crypto
Portuguese.
Yeah. Yeah. Damn it.
Direct translation never works.
But what you're saying is just bringing crypto to the daily lives of consumers here is, at this point, is such a complex issue that short-term to medium-term benefit of it might not be, worth the conversation at this point still.
Yes.
So
Yes.
because a lot of changes should be done to the
There's
financial system, to
No,
the
no,
tax
no,
system, to the. I mean, it's
and there are a lot of changes being done in the financial system in Angola. There's a lot of changes being done, and it's not worth the trouble to have the conversation of crypto in our financial system right now, because people that wants to buy crypto, they will buy crypto. They will create an account in a foreign in an exchange.
Foreign country.
They can buy Bitcoin, they can sell Bitcoin, they can do whatever they want. So I don't think it's worth the trouble bringing the conversation into our financial system, other than the central bank or the capital markets or any other entity. Okay, examining if it makes sense for the country to have position in crypto assets or not.
Your position is more based on what the major banks in the world are doing. They're all investing also in crypto. They're invested, not only investing in, but invested in crypto, investing above all in blockchain. We see the major banks like Goldman or most of the major banks, JP Morgan. I think JP Morgan, 80% of their
workforce. Blockchain is another conversation, right?
It's another conversation, but
technology.
But mining, whenever you're talking about mining, you're already putting everything in the same basket. And that's what I'm trying to say, is that whenever I'm not talking about crypto itself, I'm talking about blockchain as because the mining is used for something, and that's what I'm trying to bring.
Crypto as an economic activity in order to get forex currency for the country. I think that's what Morato is.
That's basically what I'm saying. Yes.
But that's something that is being used in the other banks, in the international banks. Yeah, but they're doing it in Angola, and they're doing it all over the world.
No, not in terms of banks. Okay, one thing is you as a bank or as an individual investor or something like that you can have stocks, you can have crypto, for instance. That's one thing. What Morato is saying is there's a business activity here, which is crypto mining.
Yes.
Yeah. That you must invest. You must have a physical space that you must purchase GPUs or mining something, mining equipment, ASICs and so on. Yeah. And currently, some of those activities are being done in the country.
Yes,
I've seen.
They are currently happening.
They are currently happening. So that I've looked at a map that is currently not updated, but a map from 1 year or 1 year and a half ago, and the hash rate. So the computational, power that was being used in Angola was almost the same as South Africa. And I was saying,
and let me tell you, and let me tell you,
activity? Yeah.
No, Ivo, let me tell you. So what you're saying it's completely right, because the hash rate done illegally in Angola is already very, very high. Mm-hmm. So now imagine if you regulate, you make it legal, and you give them access to the hydro station power source. Angola have the potential to become one of the biggest mining stations of Africa in the short term, because the conditions are there. We don't have power issue, we don't have water issue. We can do it tomorrow without the government spending one dime.
We don't have you don't have power issues in terms of production. You have power issues in terms of distribution. And for the end consumer and so on. But what you are saying is those investments would be highly supervised by the government. So a private company or private investor could come here, could set up that facility next to the generating source for instance, a hydro dam. And what you are saying is we have lots of energy production that is being wasted, right? Because I mean, realistically speaking, Angola still is not a very industrialized country. So one of the major consumers of energy is also the big heavy industry. Yeah. Big heavy industry, for instance, or many industries, and we still don't have it. So what you are saying is this could make sense in terms of let a business like that or several businesses like that operate here. They could generate revenue, and that revenue would be paid in US dollars or
Foreign,
something like that.
yes,
They pay their
yes,
taxes, they pay whatever, and
yes,
everyone is happy at the end of the day.
yes,
Because the
what
yes.
you
opportunity
say.
is there.
Crypto
The
assets is
taxes
another conversation.
is another conversation. They could pay the taxes in foreign currency because this is that's the money that they make. They pay for the license annually in foreign currency. So there is a big opportunity here that we are missing by banning completely and not regulating.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe that maybe for now, because a lot of illegal operations were being dismantled. I think just for
Yeah,
now, in order for them to understand the problem correctly,
yeah,
I think probably the government, the position was, well, let's just make. We have to have a position right now, and because we still need more time to grasp all of this,
yeah,
That's my thought. How
yeah,
they address the issue. Let's just ban it for now, so make it very clear for everyone that this is illegal activity,
yeah,
and let's see in the next couple of years, let's see what we can turn this into our benefit. Maybe, I don't know.
yeah.
I'm not
No, no,
talking
no.
I don't have
No,
insider
I
information.
agree. No, I agree, and makes sense because by proposing a law to ban, it ignited the conversation. Because until 1 year ago, that wasn't the conversation within the government. So now it's a conversation. Now they are asking questions. Now they are listening what you guys have to say, what Morato have to say, what Paulo have to say. So now they are listening. Now there is a conversation going on. And what we must do is just to give our informed opinions on how it should be done instead of just banning it. But definitely by starting with the process, even though they want to ban, it's already a conversation starter for us to have further discussions into making amendments on the law down the road.
The first position of a government normally is to ban, and then they start looking for information so that they can further develop some opinion and listen to the experts. Yeah,
Let's see.
makes sense.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
I strongly believe that they will make the most out of it, and with the contribution of civil society, and all the subject matter experts, because not all subject matter experts have the same position on the same
Yeah.
topic, right? So
Yeah.
you can have two people that are very well informed on one matter and one topic, and they have different views on the
Opinions, yeah.
same, and in other areas they can share some positions or some views. So it's normal. So the government
Yeah.
at the end of the day has to decide if what is best for the country and for its citizens and for the stability of the financial system, because we're talking about, when you talk about crypto assets, right, we're talking about the financial system, so to speak. But
Yeah.
I mean, crypto mining as a financial or a business endeavor, if well supervised, could be profitable for the country, right, without
exactly.
making harm and compromising the national electric grid.
Exactly.
Other governments are
well-
doing it. Other governments are doing it around the world.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think we're getting to the end of today's podcast. I mean, for me, it is formidable. It is amazing to have you here, Morato. Thank you so much
Oh.
for sharing your insights on these three topics that I think that for us, we always keep talking about this. Andreas knows this, Victor knows this, and well, startups is you are very well versed on this topic, on this subject. You've been around in the startup scene for quite some time now. You're a very well known person in the field,
And voice,
and I believe
yeah.
that, yeah, in voice. So your experience and the experience like others like you, um, uh, is needed in order to, the formation of this association of startups, pushing the agenda on the startup law. Man, I mean, congratulations to you. Congratulations to your team, and everyone that is, entrepreneurship in Angola is not easy, and entrepreneurship in the startups is less easier than regular entrepreneurship, I think. So congrats to you, and congrats to everyone that is making that possible. And hopefully we'll get the new Startup Act in 2024. Let's cross fingers once again. Yeah. Victor, let's cross fingers. Yeah, if we cross fingers, it will happen.
Thank you, guys. I hope I'm the longest podcast that you guys recorded.
Until now, so. Yes.
I hope so, and I hope to come back with other topics that you might be interested, because it was a really pleasure to talk to the three of you. It was a very easy conversation, and I didn't see the time going. You guys are doing a very good job. Just my one final thought from my side. I would like to commend you for that initiative, because one of the biggest issues that we have in Angola is the production of content in English to be heard and to be understood from the bigger audience out there, which is the English-speaking audience. So I really commend you guys for that initiative. I really thank you for that opportunity for us, for the ecosystem, to voice our constraints, what we're doing, what we need, what we want to achieve in English. And I know it's not easy, because even for me, it's very difficult to be speaking for more than 1 hour in English. My English is exhausted. I don't know any new words. I don't have any new words.
You went to New York last year, and you've been in the Obama Foundation gathering. So I'm sure that your English is perfectly fine.
Yeah, thank you thank you guys for the initiative. In the name of the ecosystem, in the name of the association, I would like to thank you guys for that initiative, because it opens a door for us that was never opened before. Thank you very much.
Yeah,
thank you, Morato.
It's our pleasure.
Also. Great pleasure to have you here.
So guys, see you next time on the next episode, and thank you for watching us today. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.